Yo, a quick CPOP video. Main thing I traded, did not trade, or the other tickers, MLGO and RGS and all those names. But CPOP, nice long, probably the cleanest long, even though the first one failed. Probably the cleanest long of the day. And maybe VLCN, not at market open, but on the pullback. Probably the cleanest long that I missed. I should have just shorted immediately. This was the same move as LRHC. Same move. You know, attacking those lower highs. But I was waiting for like a second push higher that never came, and I missed the short, so I should just put some on around 210. Anyways, CPOP. Couple things about this name. A, intraday runner. So I always consider intraday runners to be a minor bullish factor. Intraday runners have a lot of potential, right? Because intraday runners kind of fall into pop and drop, those like thin parabolics that drop really quickly, or you get things like increasing volume, short trap price action. Like here's your high day clear out with the quick pullback, right? Create the empty space. And this is better, right? Because we had a lot of stuff up today. We had a lot of stuff up 100, 200, 250%. And a lot of that stuff, either the longs don't work or the longs, the entries are more counterintuitive. They come after, short trap candles, more manipulation, long trap and the short trap rotations, like this type of thing on extended tickers, but on like I said, when a ticker's kind of early in the move, like this is a 1 minute 50. This was a 1 minute 50 pullback. These 1 minute 50 pullbacks could work, but a lot earlier on. Now, this was a trade. I got to give a shout out to Mikey Underdog because he really helped me analyze these types of shakeouts, right? A lot of times I would get out on these types of shakeouts and not get back in. And I would just disregard it, right? We had a bunch of you see a lot of this at market open, a lot of these types of weak market opens with multiple lower lows that rotate back up. And I'm always trying to pay attention to kind of how those reclaim and how to trade them long side, right? So, this comes in, trades, I don't know, maybe 300K, which is okay. Does a quick pullback, comes back up, does a high day clear out on increasing volume, then does a quick pullback again. I thought, oh, that could be a sign, a high day clear out short trap. It could get rotated on. It's only up 40%. Things are kind of pushing. We're kind of getting into a market where we're seeing a little bit more continuation. And I longed off the 1 minute 50 and something down here. So the 1 minute 50, for example, is like this. It was bouncing off here and it was bouncing off here. I took both. This one was interesting because you always want, this is where tape reading becomes really important, right? Because I still read tape. You could see this on the book, but I still read level 2. I still read tape because on like potentially, CPOP, on potentially manipulated tickers with more increasing volume, you'll see a lot of games be played, right? And a common little game on this one was a 168 hidden seller showed up here, and I thought that was really interesting. And what I was actually doing is I was actually longing below him, anticipating he would get taken. And then I was going to add when I rotated above him. I was like, oh, if that 168 level gets taken out. I was actually talking with Mikey as this trade was happening. I was like, that's an interesting rotation level because the market maker's holding it down. You could see him holding it down. We'll see it on the book, holding it down on purpose. So I decided to throw some money, immediately got out on this crack. And I was like, and usually I would stop looking at it. I'm like, okay, by 1 minute 50 rotation didn't really work. I thought this would be an intraday runner that would go up. That kind of sucks. So I stopped out, and then it rotated. I was like, oh, they rotated through the 168 hidden seller after this shakeout. So I thought that was really interesting. But I don't want to chase. I hate chasing these green candles because the problem with chasing, like say, I know some longs like to hit these little 1 minute pullbacks. See this little tiny 1 minute red candle. They'll hit longs with these averages, and the only problem I have with hitting longs with those averages is you're kind of banking on instant continuation, right? If you don't get instant continuation, you do risk knives. It depends where your risk level is, but you do risk a knife back through your risk level. or your position going red, and maybe it rotates back up, maybe not. But this was a lot better, right? Because I consider this whole price action to be um, potentially bullish, with the increasing volume. And then when it comes back up, I'm like, oh great, it comes back up, but you need a pullback to long into. That's the thing, you need the pullback, right? I don't want to chase green candles above the 1 minute 9 EMA in most situations. I want to long into a pullback into some key levels. Of course, this 168 guy was a key level over here, so got to remember if this guy was defending this level as resistance, it could become support. It's a key level of interest, as Mikey would say. And I just hit this long, added into the rotation, sold at high day, sold on the next push. We had increasing volume here, so I had all the reason to keep holding. But then they started taking out bids. And when I start to get like multiple layers of bids not get respected, and the more bullish MAs like the 1 minute 9 and the 20 start getting sold into, especially if you look at this. I mean, what's the bearish thesis? I mean, look how aggressive this is. It's one of those counterintuitive things where the more aggressive, ironically, unless the structure is insane and you have like a really nice liquidity thesis, on a more like normal chart like this where there isn't some, MLGO crazy liquidation squeeze happening or whatever the hell RGS was today with their debt refinancing news or stuff like that, on things that are a little bit more range bound in low float land, you often can't bank on a continuation. I just made this bigger somehow. You often can't bank on continuation after such an aggressive, especially if bids start getting taken out, if bids start getting really thin, right? So we'll look at, I guess we can look at the chart really fast. I'll touch on some other stuff at the end of the video, but yeah. So just like with shorting, a lot of times when longing, you're analyzing the reaction to the knife move, right? So I don't want to be above the 1 minute 9 here. So this is above the 1 minute 9, this is above 1 minute 9, but this big knife into this key 168 area becomes really interesting, right? And yeah, we just had a nice bidder at 160. He was the main guy I was looking. We had some thinner ones in the mid 160s, but I was mostly looking at this 160 guy because also that started this initiation over here. So if this is going to long trap, right, this will long trap minimal bids. It's also why it's very dangerous. Like you can long off these bids here on like a little chase move, say right here. But you do risk lack of bid follow-up and a knife and even possible fade, right? So I rather make a read over here, right? Really rather make a read over here. So, hyper aggressive move, really nice. Mostly just risking off this 160 bidder, and then yeah, nice little, and also 168 was like the main level from before, so all really nice. And then yeah, I mean they just started selling in the bids. I will say that just like LRHC, we'll pull up that chart. Speaking of, this did a little move today. I was actually really bullish this, but I missed the first pullback. I actually saw this really early, and I missed this pullback because of the daily. They squeeze these, again, aggressive selling, right, on a daily. Greater potential for a squeeze, and in a low float land, we're getting, these types of ZAP, ZAPP was another good example of this. A stock that ran intraday, big down-only sell-off, and aggressive. Low floats could just squeeze through all these levels, right? But needs the volume, needs the structure, needs the pattern, needs really everything in order for it to happen. So, but yeah, if we go back to LRHC on this day, the 18th. Again, up-only move, aggressive sell-off. The more aggressive the sell-off, the greater rotation potential. Big long push towards high day, pretty much swiping all these lower highs. Gets nice and close and fades. So like if we go to CPOP, again, it's really interesting. So this is ultra aggressive, right? Look how aggressive this push is, right? Um, but at the same time, we saw these liquidity games on MLGO too. These like aggressive sell-offs. So I see a painted $2 level, right? Painted $2, painted $2. I'm like, well, the short read would be a squeeze past the lower highs, past the painted whole dollar level, get close to the high day, make a read, right? And I was really trying to make a read over here. I didn't want my average in the low twos. I kind of wanted it towards like 220. And I just thought a more aggressive move was coming that just didn't really come. So, but yeah, we start seeing some very bearish stuff up here. New ask getting filled, new ask. A lot of times these market makers, you get a big aggressive move, a pullback, they stack new ask, they fill the new ask, and then they start pulling. And then this is where I should just chase. Like, look at the ask following it down, ask following down, ask following down. Bids start to get pulled. Not a whole lot of bids up here regardless, right? Some lower ones, but not really, really up here on these pushes. You know, just a few minor levels, right? Just a miss, man. I could have just shorted like around 210, 208, you know, whatever, and caught the little down only massive sell-off, right? Because at this point, like, if you're longing, you know, I had people in my room, my Discord room, hitting these longs off of here and off of here. But you have to adjust your, when you're longing after a big up-only move, especially like this is a pretty decent, you know, the liquidity squeeze, the high day clear out, you know, liquidity squeeze. You know, the best long in terms of actual continuation past high day is always going to come earlier in the move. Once you start to get aggression, once you start to get extension, you know, you could get, again, this like heavy aggressive sell-off is bullish. It's potentially bullish. And by the way, it came back to that 168 level. That same level, right? Same level. Right where the 1 minute 200 is. But what's the profit potential? Because it's already getting extended, right? It's already made multiple moves. So I thought that was interesting. I guess we'll just touch on other random plays, even though I didn't really trade them. There's that high day clear up head I'm trying to get better at, man. It's the up only. Again, if there's one lesson I really want to, you know, bring home, it's like, look how aggressive. This is a double downhaul. This is like how you got to think about these high volume, crazy percent squeezers, right? So you get like a big up only move, double downhaul. So this is why I said that other manipulated long was this move. It was this move on this soak right here. Because, again, the more aggressive the sell-off, the greater the likelihood of a rotation. Now, maybe it only goes up to here, maybe it only goes up to here. In this case, hyper-aggressive towards high day. We saw that before on different tickers. FRGT is one that's popping into mine. There's definitely other tickers that did the exact same thing. But yeah. Like, shorting, so many shorts take these first lower high because they see the double down halt and they're like, I gotta get in. They're not seeing, you know, the empty liquidity pocket that's being formed down here on a clearly, by the way, this was insane. Usually, like, remember how we say 4 a.m. parabolics are usually not great longs? So I wasn't looking at this at all from market open long. I'm like, oh, I already did a 4 a.m. parabolic. Like, 95% of these don't push new highs. Pretty rare. And not only did they push new highs, but they did it like they did the fake VWAP rejection. By the way, so if you're making the read, by the way, the read is you wait for VWAP to get rejected on decent. Hopefully the volume's decent. This was 200K at $7. It's okay. And then you make a read on the knife, right? Up halted, 25% gap up, high a day up, double up halt squeeze. Like, what the fuck is it? Like, what is this? Like, what is, like, you usually don't see 4 a.m. parabolics get up halted, open 25% higher and squeeze. It's just an insane, crazy move. But yeah, man. This type of high day clear out. So it's like crazy move, deep pullback, and hyper aggressive higher lows, and then it tops out right away. But it's not understanding the pattern that's hard. It's anticipating in real time and being prepared. Because, you know, a lot of times you're looking for, like, the long trap or some stall here. You know, maybe it's like does like an LRHC type move or a CPOP where it pushes really close to highs and stalls. And, you know, so it's like which type of move do you make a read for? And it's not always, you know, the most obvious. not that. Oh, I'm trying to open this. But what was that? VLCN? By the way, you can sign up for Bookmap through Thinkorswim if you have access to Thinkorswim. I realize that might only be like an American thing, but or you can sign up for the actual Thinkorswim. It was funny, they had this like little bidder following this up, but no actual major bidders kind of pushing it. Filling a lot of ask, right? So a lot of these are questions like, oh, do you make a long read here? Like they pulled a mini bid here. Do you make a read here? And then, you know, the reason I didn't really trade VLCN and MLGO and RGS is mostly because I would say lack of extremely nice patterns. Like I did try to make a few reads. But also the spread, man. The spread is so doo-doo. By the way, walk down in the open is often pretty strong, right? RGS was making new highs on increasing volume. And then, of course, quite extended, right? But we've seen these market open walkdowns could be extremely strong even on extended stocks. The thing is, the stocks that tend to do that tend to top relatively quickly. This one was kind of insane. I was trying to decipher this, man. I saw the aggressive moves. By the way, this had some insane market open pre-market longs. So like this one in particular was actually A plus, right? So big increasing volume, new highs, increasing volume. Bullish factor starts to get walked down. Now, you don't want to, a lot of times, you want to be careful. If a stock's getting, this was up over 100% here, you do want to be careful. The more extended something gets, the more likely you're going to see price action like this, where you get a downtrend break that seemingly stuffs on big volume, right? And then catches a bid, and this pre-market bid was insane right here. 804, 805. I was not awake for this. If you're wondering why I don't have a trade on this, it's because I wasn't awake. Or I was awake. I was just, I always do dad stuff in the morning with my daughter. So, but anyways, look at this move. Look at this move. So here's the walk down. Here's that red candle. Right? Takes out these asks. Asks do get restacked, which is bearish on the book, but it's the reaction. Again, the more extended something gets, it's the reaction after the knife, right? After the short trap after the short candle gets put in. And look at the bid, dude. And then, yeah, there's 3 layers of bids, but and then they do the bid initiation where they shove the final bid under it before rocketing it. And look at that. That's this is $10 to $12 in, I don't know, 30 seconds. Pretty nice. And then, yeah, dude, look at these bidders. And then again, this is the walk down in the open, right? One thing that was interesting about, oh, no, it wasn't. That was earlier. The interesting thing about this walk down in the open was, I would say, I was actually going to make a read. I'm like, oh, I'll break 15. I might make a read. Maybe if it's really bearish or starts stalling. But walked down and open, they pushed the 15, got up to 14.9s, rejected, got up to 14.9s, rejected again. I'm like, oh, they're painting that 15 level, right? And then, not to mention, these lower highs are right at 15, 14.9, 14. It's like, oh, that's a super painted level. But I don't want to short it. This is, a lot of, especially if the market gets stronger, the market's going to reward you for waiting for levels to get pushed, right? Getting back to CPOP. Even on a trade with less range like this, right? Big aggressive sell. If you're looking for the short and you're not short up here, right? And you're looking for like a backside liquidity move, right? Like the market rewards you for understanding the bullishness of the pullback, and B, waiting for painted backside levels to get rotated into, right? $2, lower high, high days at 234. A lot of room to kind of push back up into up here. So you have to. The problem is people don't want to wait, right? Also, they're FOMOing chasing the sell off. First of all, second of all, a lot of people try to apply that morning volatility to midday price action, and you just gotta wait longer. Gotta wait longer. The best setups come later, right? If you get one at all, right? So, yeah, VLCN did that height clear out. RGS. So yeah, RGS had that 15 level painted and then instant all halted through it, and I wasn't really making a read down here, even though there was a bunch of bids in the 2.9s right here. I didn't think that's where the read was in terms of like manipulated market open long entry. I was actually thinking maybe it might, because of how aggressive it was in the market open, that it might be more beneficial to look for the short than look for the long. So I wasn't in a bullish mindset of let me long some crazy bid down here type of thing. But yeah, I mean, and this is also another good example, right? It gives a big push, right? Aggressive sell-off. And then I was going to make a read here. I thought this was rotating up. I was like, oh man, if this pushes to 18 and 18.5 super aggressively, I'll make a short read here. But stuff's right under 18. Stuff's at 17.9. So what does that do? 18 fake whole dollar resistance and another lower high that gets put into place, right? And then another low, and then same thing with here. These are the types of moves that I've been thinking more and more about scalping. Because from a zoomed out perspective, I don't want to short here because I want these lower highs to get pushed, right? But from a more like micro perspective, we have painted lower highs. I mean, painted higher lows. So higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. Big aggressive relative value move. And every time these types of moves happen, I call these 1 minute flags. I look at the 1 minute consolidation, and I love it when you get a secondary little push, because this secondary little push is often a retail push, and it can tell you in the book can tell you a lot, especially on these hyper extended names, about the continuation potential after. It's even the same over here, but this one actually rolled over right away. But it tells you, especially after the second push, what the possible rotation potential is. And if we go to RGS at 1132, tons of crazy stuff. 1132. This book looks super bearish, right? We're getting ask at higher liquidity levels filled. We're getting minimal bid follow-up. Here's a little second push. Doesn't even take out this ask. A new ask comes in right away. And you start getting... But my thinking is, especially on a name as volatile as this, even if this is a scalp move, because the risk of shorting a painted lower high is that it rotates later, right? Like, this is the risk. Like, shorting here, the risk is this rotation because of the lower high chart paint. And they did the classic thing where they shook out a bunch of, painted retail levels, right? Did like a VWAP shakeout, took out these lows down here. But yeah, and funny enough, I was actually going to make a read. I was like, oh, if it pushes to 18, maybe it does some type of crazy up-halt, long trap, dump move. And I didn't even have to make that read because it unhalted, and this went straight up in like 3 seconds. Like, unless you were the most impatient person in the fucking world, you would not have got squeezed on that type of move. And some big brain people actually long this. MLGO. Man. So crazy, first of all, crazy sell-off in the market open, right? On a hyper-rigged ticker. I thought it had push potential. I just thought it had push potential up here. The only concerning thing was the MDR. So MDR is always kind of, especially this type of, this like Chinese liquid. I mean, I did a whole video on this, like this Chinese liquidation squeeze. There's a lot of risk involved. And MLGO, if we go to that push on the book, this would be the last. This is just like Easter egg type stuff. MLGO on the book is right here. It was very interesting. They had a 150,000 share ask at $15, which actually completely got eaten into on this candle. What's interesting is yesterday they also had several large asks like this get filled honest liquidity pushes. I remember there was like a 100K one yesterday that got taken out, so I keeping that in mind, but look at the bid. So you could short potential, pre-market long trap clear out, right? Where the idea here is it's squeezing past all these painted lower highs, getting decently close to high a day, shorting out of the up, halt, stall, and pull. There's a lot of good, like, bigger brain, like, trying to think like a market maker, like, how would you generate liquidity and dump a stock? Like, it makes sense. But the large ask was a little off-putting just because of the ticker and how it acted yesterday. And B, man, they came in with this bid, man. They came in with this bid and just shoved it and pulled. So if you're short this, guys, and you see a bid get respected and then ask starts getting pulled on rotations, it's not good. It's not, especially given the amount of consolidation it has, it's not good. But that's more of a, using the book to dynamically adjust your risk. But I was a little hesitant because of that, and then I saw the bid, and then it just went kind of straight up, and I was like, wow, this thing is absolutely fucking crazy. That's literally what I thought. And then, yeah, I mean, same thing midday. Like, aggressive sell-off, right? Don't short these first lower highs. Let these first lower highs get rotated into first, right? And then it's more construct. Now, again, I did the problem of wanting, I was like, I'll wait for 20. I'll wait for higher, which saves me a lot of times. The wait for higher strat does save me on a lot of losses, but it also causes me to lose on plays like this. But yeah, and this, from a midday perspective, much more constructive, right? Aggressive sell-off, so you definitely want a rotation, right, on these rig tickers. We've seen the potential. And then, yeah, look at the 1 minute 50 higher lows, right? So higher lows, painted higher lows on a crazy extended stock is always a bearish factor. And the book, this is one of those where, like, I should have just listened to the book. There's I'll show you the book right here. What time is this? 11:26. 11:26 is here. So here's that hyper aggressive move. Past those lower highs. Look at all those asks getting filled with no bids. I wasn't instantly going to short this candle just because, I wanted higher. And then I was like, I'll read a second push. Maybe this like right here when it starts basing, maybe this bid pushes it back above 19.20s, fills these ask, and I can make a short read and it'll pull. And what ended up happening was they just came in with a million ask, and then they did this other hyper aggressive again, massive sell off, hyper aggressive rotation, right? Classic rig stock stuff, right? And yeah, I mean, they just pushed these ass. 19 didn't get tested again, let alone 19.2. No, layers of ass come in, no bid follow up, and they start flashing all these guys. These guys come in, and I'm like, well, maybe I should have just, especially something like this. Like, should I just chase down here on this? Because, I mean, at this point, the higher lows are about to get broken, right? The higher lows, and then a bunch of ass come in, and then you're about to get a fat downtrend break. It just feels like chasing, man, especially on a stock as manipulated as this. I did want to be careful. So, anyways, that's it for today. Long video on a bunch. But the only thing I really traded was CPOP. I'm pissed I missed a short. I should have caught 20% both ways on that name. And had a pretty decent day out of it. But at least I didn't get squeezed on these other names. So, anyways, that's it for today. Information down below about the Discord. We long and short. There's a lot of different people in that room who trade differently, and we're all working together to, talk about stocks and talk about liquidity moves and, understand the low flow market and all that stuff. So if you want to join, if you made it this far in the video, if you made it this far in the video, my guess is you're already in my Discord. So, anyways, you guys have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow.